everybody welcome. Once again, we'll just reiterate, all today is just going over basic terminology, right? Aim of today is so that way, like whenever you go into something like BFM Breakdown or Friday Night Fights, and like myself or Jonah or Ben or somebody's explaining something to you, and maybe they say something that you don't understand, that, this will help you understand what they're talking about, right? So the first term I think we'll go over today, right, is aspect. It's a pretty important thing to know, right? So if I'm looking at this plane, right, we're talking about aspect. All it is a measure of your position to another aircraft, based off of, where you're at on their nose, right? And it's measured from 0 to 180 degrees, right? So right up here, right, if you're off the nose, you're sitting at 180 degrees aspect, high aspect, right? Like that's the highest you can be.
Eric, what's
If you're sitting
120
somewhere off to the
degrees?
side, right, you're sitting at 90. You're at medium aspect, right? And then if you're down here, you're towards the rear, that's 0 degrees, low aspect, right? And it's just it works the exact same way over here. It doesn't matter if I'm, left or if I'm right. If I'm off to his side, I'm at 90. If I'm at the nose, 180. If I'm at the tail, 0, right? It goes all the way around into a big circle, right? Now, why is this important to know? Anybody have any guesses or just know off the top of their head? Why is that important to know? Nothing? Okay. Well, it's important to know because, right, if I'm going to fight with somebody, and, say I'm in the red plane and they're in the blue plane, right? And I'm trying to attack them, like let's say that, they're here and I'm way over here, right? We got all this space in between us and, I'm coming in for an attack or even an entry. When I'm looking at this guy, right, from where I'm at, what aspect am I at to him, right? So if I turn him sideways, I'll make this a little bit easier to visualize. If I turn him sideways just like that, am I at low, am I at medium, or am I at high aspect? Anybody? I bet you're waving your hand around like you want to answer, but low? Oh no, you see, look at where we're at here. I'll turn it this way so it's a little bit easier to see. That way you can see their silhouette. So if I'm like this, right? Am I at low, medium, or high? High? Well, no, not exactly. High's off the nose, right? He's high aspect to me, but I'm medium aspect to them, right? Now, it's important to know this because when I go to attack him like this, right, he's flying forward, I still have to pull lead, right? I go into a lead pursuit curve to try and shoot him if I'm using, my gun. And what's that going to do, right? Well, it's going to increase my aspect, but it's also going to create something else, right? Something called closure, right? So if I draw our flight paths here, right? This guy's going this way.
What?
And now I'm coming this way. Where am I heading? I'm heading towards his front, aren't I? Right? So if I start at medium aspect and I start pulling lead and I travel further and further in front of the guy, right? I'm doing two things, right? I'm not only closing this range very, very rapidly, right? Closure. I'm creating a lot of closure between us, but I'm also increasing aspect. And that's going to, help this guy out, right? If he sees this coming, oh, maybe he pulls in too, and now we're both nose to nose. You get a neutral pass and you merge, right? Whereas on the other end, if I recognize that I'm starting, at medium aspect, instead of going for that lead pursuit curve, right? That pursuit curve where you're pulling out in front of them, I go for lag instead, right? 3 pursuit curves, lead, pure, lag, right? Like if I was to draw it out, lead, I'm coming out front, pure, I'm going 2, lag, I'm going behind. If that makes sense. If I create that lag pursuit curve, even if he pulls in, I'm minimizing that closure that, we were generating a whole bunch, going to make it a lot more stable for me. You know, we go into our rate fight, there's going to be a little bit of offset and all that fun stuff, right? But this is why it's important to understand aspect, because if I want to enter in and attack this guy, it's like, okay, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to go for the kill right here and risk overshooting this guy and maybe giving him a head-on pass? Do I want to just follow him, maintain my position, or do I want to keep a little bit more space and let the fight develop for a little bit longer, right? Maybe work into a better position. You know, that's why it's important to understand aspect. Now, another example of this, right? Like we'll switch up our scenario here. Still a red plane, right? And we're here, and this guy, oh God, let's say we're closer, right? We're way closer here, right? And we'll go to lower aspect, but with a different sight picture, right? Like we're here, you know, we're about to overshoot this guy's flight path, still at low aspect, and this guy, you know, he's ripping around his circle, right? Because of all this low amount of range in between our circles, you know, as you pass by each other, what do you think you can infer on the next pass, right? As you're coming back around, like this guy, we're assuming, you know, he's doing best BFM that he can. He's identifying that he's losing. What's a good chance, or what's a good assumption that this guy's going to do on that next pass, right? We're already starting super close like this, even though we're moving towards lower aspect. We got all this very small amount of separation and range between us. Anybody? Jinglu's typing. Reversal on the next turn, yeah, right. Like maybe they're gonna go for it, right? Like they've got all this range between them. They say, oh, you know, we took one lap around the circle, and maybe when they reach this point of their circle, they just yanked in, right? And now we're looking like this, and now we're at higher aspect, right? As soon as we see this, it's like, okay, they've decreased range and they've increased aspect. With those two things in mind, they've created a ton of closure, right? Mentioned that before. Closure, the, you know, measured amount of range that, you know, is decreasing between you and your opponent, right? That now they can hit a reversal, and they can, you know, they can turn the fight around or neutralize it or get you out front. You know, that's why it's important to understand aspect. It's going to affect everything in your dogfighting, right? Like regardless of what plane you're in, what plane they're in, or whatever whatever scenario you find yourself in, right? Like you need to understand what aspect is and how it's going to affect your decision-making skills. That makes sense to everybody?
When should I Cobra?
Nods. Never.
Okay.
All right, so we just talked about aspect, and in some of that we mentioned a couple of other things, right? One of them was range, right?
Shut up.
When we talk about range, like it's exactly what it is, right? The distance between you and your opponent, right? Like let's say this is maybe 100 yards. Oh, Jesus. I'm out here drawing it backwards for you guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, we'll say that, like, you know, this 100 yards, right? Like range is one a super simple thing to understand what it is, but everything else we're going to talk about is how you're going to manage it, right? It's like, oh, do I want to close it in and be less range? Do I maybe want to extend away, make it more range? You know, it all depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to build a position on the guy, if you're just trying to go for a gunshot or something, you know, the only thing you need to know is that range is the distance between you and your target. Now, we talked about aspect and range, closure, right? The rate at which we're closing that distance between you and your opponent, right? We'll say, we'll say here, this guy is 100 yards away from us, right? And maybe they're going 100 knots, and you're going 100 knots, and you're at what aspect is this? Nose to nose? High, exactly. Yeah, you're both at high aspect. So if you're both at high aspect, right, what could you also assume? You're going to, like, this range is going to close down pretty fast, right? Like this guy's going 100 knots towards this guy, and this guy's going 100 knots towards this guy. And that's what closure is, right? So they're 100 knots. They're 100 knots. You get 100 yards, or we'll say 100 nautical miles. That'll be a little bit better. Or no, not even that. Fucking 10 nautical miles. Right. We'll make it a little bit closer, a little bit easier to formulate. Right now, if I'm nose to nose with this guy, right, he's going 100 knots and he's going 100 knots. How fast is this gap closing? Right, he's going 100 nautical miles an hour. He's going 100 nautical miles an hour, and they're nose to nose. How fast is this gap? Well, I mean, if he was sitting still, yeah. But you got to think, he's closing that speed. He's closing that speed. At high aspect, you need to add these together. The both of them are closing that range at 200 nautical miles an hour. Right, which means, you know, at 10 miles, that's going to be pretty quick. That's a couple of seconds. You know, like, oh God, yeah, 100 nautical miles, 10 nautical miles away, you're going to be there pretty quick, right? That's your rate of closure. I mean, some could argue, you know, like, oh, why would you choose the order that you did? You know, oh, geez, who started that? Thank you. Okay, anyway. So why are we choosing the order we do? Because range, aspect, or aspect, range, and closure are the three things you're trying to manage in a dogfight, right? And every single one of them affects each other, right? Especially, you know, aspects. It's like, oh, I'm at this range. I'm at this aspect with the guy. It's like, oh, I need to catch up to him. And, you know, he's doing 200 knots. But I'm also doing 200 knots. That means, you know, you're maintaining range. Oh, they're out of gun range, but we're both doing the same speed. Now there's no closure. But now, right, you put this person into a turn. There, I'll turn it towards y'all. You put this guy into a slight turn, right? And it's like, oh, hold on a minute, something just changed, right? And this is where your pursuit curves come in. Again, what are the three pursuit curves? We mentioned them earlier.
Lag, pure, and lead.
Lag, pure, and lead, right? So if I'm starting at low aspect here, and this guy, you know, he's making his right turn, what do you think? What do you think I could do, being this guy, to close some of that range between me and this guy to get into weapons envelope? What could I do? Lead, yeah, exactly. Optics. You can lead, right? You cut into their circle and you lead, and now you're kind of intercepting their flight path. But if I do that too, what's going to happen, right? Like we've created closure, the range is decreasing, but what else is happening? Like, unless I'm staying right on his tail, right? Something else is happening. We're increasing. Anybody? You're increasing aspect. I think Jinglu was just about to type it, and I kind of cut her off. That's fine. But yeah, you're increasing aspect. You know, like these are all things that you need to think about in a dogfight, right? Whether it be, oh, I'm working for position, or I'm working to get a weapons solution on the person, right? Small stuff like that. Like, you're managing those three things, and everything else that we're going to talk about is just things to think about or ways to manage it, right? One of those ways to manage it, right? Like if you're in a two circle, right? We've talked about this in a lot of BFM breakdowns, is generating angle off, but a lot of people get confused on what we mean when we're talking about angle off. So angle off, right? Like, let's say this guy, he's heading directly north. You know, he's going 000 or 360, whichever one you prefer, right? And then we got this guy, right? He's heading west. He's at 270, right? When we're talking about angle off, you know, like, oh, geez, I'm going to try to draw a straight line here. We're talking about angle off. We're talking about the difference in angle from these aircraft's headings, right? So this example, it made it a little bit easy. You know, it's very, very simple. But if this guy, right, is going directly north and this person's going directly west, angle off is going to be right here, right? This angle. right? What angle is this, right? 360 degrees in a whole circle. Yeah, 90 degrees, exactly, optics. 90 degrees of angle off right here. Now, if I change that, right, let's say we go like right here or something, right? Now we're here. Your angle off has now just changed. It went from 90 degrees to something like this. I mean, in this, I'm trying to do 45 degrees, but, I don't have a protractor up here, so I'm not going to get anything exact, right? 45 degrees off. What has also happened here? We just did what? We went from, we went from here, right, where we were going to pass behind them at low aspect, but now we're kind of heading towards them. What just happened? Now we're coming here. Well, man, kind of. Like, there is a little bit of closure here. Like, they're already out front in this specific case, but we've also aspect. We've increased our aspect slightly. We went from out here. Oh, Jesus Christ! I'm out here fighting stick drift. I apologize. We went from here, right? Like, we start right here, and we continue to have that same amount of angle off. We go from like, low medium to low, back to low medium again, right? Whereas here, we've now kind of stabilized it, right? We're not getting lower and lower aspect anymore. We're kind of, we've increased our aspect just a little bit, not by much, just a little bit, right? Which can increase closure, decrease range, all that fun stuff, right? Like trying to explain this, how they all tie together, That makes sense to everybody what angle off is? I can give one more example here, right? So if we're in the rate, right, like we're both doing this, people could argue, oh, look, they're not changing their direction. There is no angle off, right? And you'd be right, at least to a degree. If you're both in the same exact aircraft, and you're traveling around a circle, let's say, at perfect rate, this guy, he's here and this guy's here. The angle of their heading is for both of these aircraft are also going to be changing at the exact same rate, right? So if, let's say these aircraft have a 20 degree, 20 degrees a second rate, right? Like they can cover 20 degrees of their circle in 1 second. Well, that's also the same exact rate that their angle of heading is changing, and if this guy is doing if this guy's doing the same rate as me, his heading's also changing at that same exact rate. So when you increase the size of your circle, you extend just a little bit, you make your circle wider, what happens? Well, you decrease rate. Now, instead of covering this much of your circle, right, in a second, now maybe you're covering this much. But if I've just slashed, my degrees per second in half, what else have I slashed in half, right? We just established that we're, changing our heading at the same exact pace. But if I just slice that in half, what just happened? I created what? I created angle off, right? Now that I'm not doing the same rate, my heading is also not changing as fast. It widens out your circle and it creates angle off. Now, anytime for the people that have been to BFM Breakdown and everything, we've talked about, when you're in a fight with somebody, like in that specific scenario, let's say, you got into your offensive position, right? And you're both pulling the same rate and you just don't have enough energy to pull lead to shoot the guy, right? This is where angle off comes into play, right? You do a slight extension, they're going to pull out of you, right? And then as you come back around, that's when you start to pull in and you've created a little bit of offset. And now you've got the lead that you need to kill the person or to get a shot off, right? But let's say, you're both neutral, right? And you just, you start extending your turn, you're creating angle off, whereas this guy's been holding optimal rate and you haven't really been cashing in. Well, now you're making your circle way too wide and this guy ever so slowly is going to start getting around his circle on you, right? So there's times to use it and then there's times not to use it. There is such a thing as too much. But that's what angle off is. That makes sense to everybody? Does anybody need another explanation or example, maybe? Any questions so far? No? Okay, cool. So we've talked about range, closure, aspect, and angle off, right? We've mentioned it a few times, but and I think people have a good understanding of it so far. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna talk about it anyway. Pursuit curves, right? Different ways that you can go after another aircraft, right? Like let's say this is our circle, right? And blue plane has a decision to make here, right? There's their circles. Blue plane can do 3 things, right? Somebody mentioned it earlier, so we'll have somebody else try to mention. What are the 3 different pursuit curves that this guy can try to take for this guy? All right, optics, you can only mention 1. Lead. Okay, optics mentioned lead, right? Lead. Out front, right? What about here? What if we go directly at the guy? What's that?
Pure.
And then if he goes towards the rear? Lag. Exactly, right? And what are the 3 things? I can't hold up 3 fingers with this avatar, but what are the 3 things that can get
finger CD. Put your
Oh, okay,
put
thank
your
you.
hand down. Yeah, put 2
There.
fingers up.
Yeah, what
There you go.
what are the 3 things
There you go.
that you can manipulate with
I
these
can still
3
feel you.
pursuit curves? God, it's the 3 things that we have to manage in a dogfight. It's the first 3 things we went over. Yeah, range, aspect, and closure, right? You managing those 3 things with these 3 pursuit curves, at least in this specific instance, right? So we've talked about pursuit curves, range, aspect, closure, and we've talked about angle off. And one thing we're going to move on to right here is your lift vector, right? This is something that confuses a lot of people, but is also extremely important, right? When we're talking about your lift vector, right? Like this, here's our plane. Just imagine a line that points directly up from the top of the aircraft, right? So anytime you're turning an aircraft in the air, how do you turn it, right? Like if I'm this guy and I'm flying straight and I want to make, say, a left turn, what do I have to do to make this aircraft turn left? Yeah, crypto.
Roll left.
Yeah, you got to roll left, right? So if I roll left, my lift vector also goes left, right? So whenever we talk about lift vector placement, like especially in something like a rolling scissors, this is why we emphasize it so much, because your lift vector is quite literally pointing in the direction where you're trying to get your aircraft to maneuver, right? And like, let's say we're in a roller here. This guy, he's out front ever so slightly, right? But he's really closing the range between us. What's something that we could do, to kind of keep us just right here, to stop us from going forward? I'll give you a hint. It's lift vector placement, but where am I going to place it? Am I going to put it in front of him? On him? Am I going to put it behind him? Parker, I saw your hand raised. Are you wanting to answer it? All right, yeah. So if we're right here and we're trying to stop from going out front in this guy, where am I going to put my lift vector?
Lag. I feel like maybe.
I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Are you able to type it out? If you're not comfortable speaking.
I think you're trying to say lag.
Lag?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Lag's one way to do it. Like it is actually a good way of managing it, right? Because like if we're getting really close to this guy, right, and he's trying to push us forward, and we put ourselves into lag pursuit, right? We take our lift vector and we place
That's
it.
what I do.
And we place it
Very
behind our opponent. Where are we going to travel towards?
It's true.
Anybody? If we take our lift vector and we put it into lag pursuit, right behind our guy, where are we going to maneuver towards? The rear. Yeah, exactly. The rear. We're going to go towards the rear of his plane. But if we're traveling towards the rear of his plane, what else is happening? There's something that's decreasing. What is that something? What's decreasing if we're going towards their tail? Yeah, aspect, right? We're decreasing aspect. But if this guy, right, he's keeping it, let's say he's keeping it really, really tight, he's putting the pressure on, and you stay right here, whatever, and he doesn't have the energy to keep up with you, then what happens, right? We're decreasing aspect. We're also decreasing. What are those other two things we're trying to manage throughout the dogfight we talked about? Aspect is decreasing, and closure. But if our closure is decreasing, then what's increasing? What's it like? If I'm going here and my closure is decreasing, and my aspect is decreasing, then what's increasing? Crypto, you got your hand up.
Oh, I think you said something about range.
Range, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You see, like you're starting. I hope this is really helping out. But you see now, like how all of these things are blending together. You take your lift vector, right? You put it into a lag pursuit curve. You've now decreased closure. You're increasing range, and you're decreasing your aspect. You're stabilizing the fight. Right? They making sense? Really, don't be afraid to ask any questions either. Right? Again, this is meant for everybody who's just starting out. There really is no dumb questions. But if you ask me how to look at unless you ask me how to do a Cobra, or if you ask me how to look at another aircraft, okay. If you need help looking at another aircraft, this is what you're gonna do. Okay, you're gonna take the balls on your face. You're gonna put it on the aircraft. All right, everybody, let's try that out real quick. All right, take the balls on your face. Go look at that F-16. All right, everybody, see that F-16 over there? Now don't take your eyes off of it. Right. You've now established a line of sight. You all now know how to look at an aircraft, right? Balls on. All right, balls on. Take the balls on your face, put it on the opposing aircraft, and don't take them off. Good?
Hello, Jono.
All right, cool,
like
cool.
Three golden rules of BFM, and number one is maintain line of sight, so...
Pretty much.
Yep. All right, so we've talked about range. We've talked about aspect.
Oh, man, I'm experienced.
We've talked about closure. We've talked about angle off. We've talked about our pursuit curves, and we've talked about our lift vector. Let's see. Am I missing anything here?
This is getting longer and longer. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty long list. Oh, okay. You know what? No. Even better,
it's
right?
For those people.
Two other things, right? Rate. Who knows off the top of their head what rate is? And when I'm talking about rate, I should say rate of turn, because there is a rate of closure and other things like that. But what is rate of turn? Optics is up there typing. Yeah. How fast can you complete a full circle? Right? Like we'll say this is the top of your circle right here. This is your starting point, and because you're traveling in a circle, it's also your end point. So how long is it going to take you to start from here, travel all the way around the circle, and get back to here? Right? This is extremely important to understand, because if you don't, right, and you get caught into a fight with somebody who's in a better aircraft, that rate, or at least rates better than yours, and you just stay there, it's going to be detrimental, right? So all it is, like how fast can you get around the circle, right? Or what's your fastest degrees per second? That's a good way of doing it, right? You got 300, oh, Jesus Christ. Right, you got 360 degrees in a circle. Oh, good Lord, did I do that backwards? I probably did. You get it. 360 degrees in a circle, right? Obviously, you're not going to cover all of that, in 1 second. There's not an aircraft that exists that does that. I mean, not even the ones that you find in test pilots. They don't even do that. They get close, but they don't quite get it, right? But yeah, your degrees per second, that's what the best measurement is for it, right? Like some aircraft, you could say some of them get like 20 degrees per second, right? They can travel, that's probably not 20 on the dot, but it's just a hypothetical. 20 degrees per second and 360 degrees in a circle. Yeah, if I could 15, it'd take you like 17 or 18 seconds to get around this full circle, right? Whereas maybe you're fighting another aircraft that does 30 degrees per second, right? They're getting 10 more degrees in 1 second than you are. That's why it's important to understand aircraft performance and everything else like that. How is that possible? Okay, think of it like this. Think of it like this, right? If I'm traveling in a straight line, right? Straight line distance, and let's say this is a mile, right? This is 1 mile. And, I'm going 100 miles an hour or something like that. You know what? No, 60 miles an hour. That's a little bit better, right? I'm covering this much range, 60 miles an hour. Oh, my Lord. I'm just going to face you anytime I draw now because this isn't working out. I can't do it backwards. Yeah. I'm going 60 miles an hour. This is going to take me a whole minute to cross this much range, right? From my start point to my end point. Now that's great. I could increase this to say 600 miles an hour, right? And I could significantly decrease that time, right? Like down to 10 seconds. Now that's cool and everything, right? But G-forces are a thing, right? So anytime you're traveling in a circle, like straight line distance, oh man, no problem. I'm going to go as fast as I want, but you can't do that in a circle because of G-forces. Like, let's say this is a quarter-mile circle or something, or maybe a 10-meter circle, right? Am I going to be able to have an aircraft or even be able to withstand the amount of G-forces that happen at a circle that small going that amount of speed? Like, it doesn't exist, right? That's why aircraft, whenever they're in a dogfight, you see them operating a lot slower, right? So we'll look at this as an example, right? We'll say this is our turning radius, right? Radius, the measured distance of your CERN circle, right? Here's your radius going, say, 150 knots, right? And then here's your radius going, oh my Lord, stick drift, help me out here. I apologize, I'll do this backwards still. Yeah. So yeah, 150 knots for this first one, 250. And then, why, please? And then we'll say this is our circle for 350. Right? Pretty significant difference, right? If we're all starting at the same point, right? Like we got this guy who's going, 150 knots, and he's starting right here. This person's starting right here, and this person's starting right here. We all got the same start point. We all got the same end point, right? Now you would think that this guy right here doing 150 knots is going to get around this circle faster, right? Like that's a pretty small circle. If our start point is right there and it ends right there, like that's a small amount of distance to cover, right? Like one would think, but that's not really the case because he's not holding a lot of speed. Yeah, he's got a tighter radius, but he's not traveling across it very fast. And then we got this person right up here, right? Doing 250. Now their radius is a lot bigger, right? But they're also going 100 knots faster. Like we'll say, here's your degrees per second going here. But because this guy's faster, right? He's able to cover, like say, this much, almost a third, whereas this guy's only getting a quarter. And then you come up to this guy, 350, right? You got to be thinking, oh, but CD, he's going 100 knots faster than this guy, right? Even though his circle's wider, he's got to be traveling faster across the circle. Well, no, not really, because now we're outside of what's called rate band, right? Like this guy, even though he is traveling at a faster speed, it's also maintaining a radius that's so big that he can't travel across it, right? And it decreases, to something like this, right? Like this guy's getting as many degrees per second as this guy in here. And then this guy who's sitting more optimally, right? He's found the balance between size of circle and how, fast he's traveling, right? That's, measured difference in rate. Now I mentioned rate band just then, right? So rate band, whenever we're talking about that, is just a range of speeds. Like let's say you got an aircraft that rates optimally. We'll go back to that 250, right? Oh my good Lord. There we go. You just got to smack it.
Yeah, just
so we'll go back to that. We'll go back to that 250, right? Like that guy, that's our optimal rate. We'll say we're getting at 250, we're getting 15 degrees per second around our circle. And that's the fastest we can travel, right? Well, rate band, is, again, a range of speeds. This is going to be within the rate band, but the rate band is going to be like, we'll say 200 and lower end will be 230. And at 230, we're traveling 13 degrees per second. And then maybe it goes up to something like 280, where we're only getting, maybe 12 degrees per second. Now, one would think that, you would always want to stay here at 250 knots all the time, right? Well, I mean, yes and no. You are getting the best degrees per second, but if you're, in a pinch, you can travel at these speeds across your circle too and get different size radius. Like here's the guy traveling at 250. Maybe here's the guy who's traveling at 230. And then here's the guy traveling at 280, right? Different sized circles, but, not nearly as exaggerated. It's close, right? You can use this to manipulate, your geometry and everything else, right? But it's just like a range you can operate in and still be just fine. Like you still have your optimal rate, but the amount of degrees per second that you lose, at least in this hypothetical, is so small that it's still within viable operation or operational ranges, right? Like if this guy's sitting here and he's doing 250 knots, right? And he's beating me in the rate and I recognize that, it's like, oh, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to extend up to the top of my rate band, as I come around the back, and, he's going to continue to travel here. And as soon as as soon as I see him start to travel even towards the center of my canopy, maybe now I'm going to pull down to 230, right? This is called instantaneous. This is what you cash in on, right? I'm taking my 280 knots and I'm going to bleed it slowly down to 230, right? And we'll talk about instantaneous after this example, right? So like we'll say I bleed it in. As I do that, right? As I go from 280 down to 250, down to 230, what's happening? What's happening to the size of my turn circle? Anybody? Rosfield.
Getting smaller.
Yeah, it's getting smaller, right? But I'm also still not losing out on too much rate. So like I pull in, right? And this guy's keeping the same size circle. What just happened? Right? This guy was, slowly getting around to lower and lower aspect, but now, like I've done, what are the three things I just did? I increased. What's the first thing I did? I increased what? Who was paying attention? See this good old check on learning. Jinglu, you've been eager to type. What did I just increase when I did that exertion? Right? What did I just increase? Yeah, exactly. I increased my aspect. So when I increased aspect to this guy, what else did I increase? What else went up? If aspect increases, what else increases? Yeah, Jack's over here miming it. Closure. And if my closure increases, what goes down?
Range.
Range. Exactly. Right? And like, I'm closing this range between me and this guy until eventually we pass maybe, something like this where he's almost got his nose on. But now because I've got all this range, I can redefine the fight, right? I can reverse on him. I can take this into a one circle. This guy's already faster than me, right? And I just spent a bunch of energy slowing down. So again, like let's say, I'm bleeding down to that 230, right? Here's my radius at 230. Here's my radius at 250. I'm already at a tighter radius than this guy. And if I flip it over into the one circle, right, like the whole point of that is to win by having the tightest turn radius, I'm already at an advantage. All right, he got a positional advantage, but now I'm set up for success in that next turn, right? That makes sense to everybody? You know, what rate band, and how all that stuff can affect your fight? Yeah. Okay, cool. Again, don't be afraid to ask questions throughout this, unless it's about cobraing, because that doesn't have a place in dogfighting unless you're super, super desperate or the other guy is completely out of ammo and can't shoot you. Because, like, look,
I think you should pull the drag shoot. There you go.
like
That
you know,
works
if
a
we're
lot
fighting
better, if you
here,
ask me.
right, and like this person's got a thin silhouette and I'm struggling to shoot him, what do you think's going to happen as soon as he's like this? He just gave me a huge target to shoot at. You just sit there, saw him in half with your gun. Yeah, Top Gun isn't real. Oh, what, the Gorbachev bell? The Gorbachev bell is the same thing, except now instead of you know, giving my opponent a big silhouette target like this, now it's just a big silhouette target, but now I'm spinning. It's like a carnival, you know, attraction.
You'd probably have no energy left either.
No, no, you know, if I catch a dude doing this, you know what I'm going to do? One, I mean, yeah, I'm going to shoot at him. But you know what's going to happen if I miss? I'm just going to keep going. I'm going up, right? This guy's already slow. I'm going to... But what would be a good pursuit curve to go to, right? Where if this guy's already pissed slow and he can't come up with me, where should I put my lift vector at? Remember, he can't follow us. Lead? I mean... Maybe he's already slow. If I go to lead, I'm, you know, increasing aspect and closure.
Pure?
If I got enough range for a shot. Lag! There you go. Yeah, if I'm trying to get back in that position, I'm going to go to lag. I'm going to go to his tail because there's nothing he can do about it. He's a sitting duck. He's got no energy. And you know what's going to happen? He's finally recovered or something, right? I'm just going to follow him down, and guess what? I'm right back to where I started. Or, you know, I go to lag. I go for another shot, and let's say he does the same thing again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm just going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to outrun his nose. I'm going to come up. I'm going to come back down, and this guy's he's just sitting there waiting to die. You know?
That makes me feel old.
Let's see. What if he's...
Unfortunately,
what if he's Maverick? Even that dude died.
What that means.
All right. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who. Right? You can't outfly an aircraft's, you know, airframe limitations.
Yeah, the goal in a dogfight is to achieve 100%. There is no 101% because then you're dead. If you're under the limit, you're shot down. If you're over the limit, you crash and die. You know, it's quite simple. So,
or you destroy your own
100%.
aircraft, in which case you've just solved the other guy's problems.
That other guy is A-okay with that, by the way. Just remember that.
Right now, I think that and then turn rate, we talked about turn rates, or we talked about rate band.
You was going to talk about instantaneous.
Oh yeah, instant. Thank you, Ben. Right. So, instantaneous turn rate. Right. So we talked about our rate band. You know, we got our sustained rate, right? Our optimal sustained rate. We've got the top of our rate band, and we've got the bottom of our rate band, right? And what did we say? We said this was like, what, 15 degrees per second? This is 12. And then, you know, maybe this is like 13, right? So if we're just holding our speeds, that's all we're getting, right? We talked about instantaneous. We go from that 280 to 230, right? These are all your sustained speeds, but instantaneous is something you can get at the cost of energy, right? So if I start at that 280 and I'm doing 13 degrees and I slowly pull down to, you know, 230, I can get even more degrees per second than my sustained. And that's because I'm bleeding my energy, right? And I'm rapidly decreasing the size of my turn circle. You know, like we'll say if we go from 280 to 16, our max instantaneous, right, in one pull, maybe it could be 20 degrees, per second, right? That's if we're like max pull, we yank everything from 280 to 230, right? It's like, oh, cool. For about a second, we traveled 20 degrees per second, right? Or maybe we don't yank everything, right? It's just a gradual pull, right? We pull back just a little bit and we slowly start to bleed. Then maybe we can get 17 degrees per second out of it. But instead of doing, 17 degrees for 1 second, like we did for 20 degrees, we do that for maybe, say, 3 seconds, right? What's going to cover more of your circle more fast if you do 20 degrees in 1 second, or if you do 17 degrees in 3, like over 3 seconds? Like for 3 seconds, we're getting 17 degrees. Like this is gonna get you way more.
I think you need to like mention it's in relation to like, can I have the pen? Give me the pen.
Oh yeah, go
I
for
have
it.
the power now. It's in relation to the F-16 has a sustain like an optimal sustained degrees per second of like 21-ish degrees per second and like 300 and 310 knots, And if you have excess energy, let's say you have 350 knots and you're pulling in, I kind of like to call it like sustained instantaneous. I find that it's more optimal to bleed down to 310 at like 17 degrees per second, or well, in this case it'd be like 23 degrees per second over, 8 seconds than it is because in theory I could pull probably like 25 degrees per second, but I'm bleeding from 350 to 310 like instantly, basically. Whilst here I'm using my energy more optimally, whilst also gaining two more degrees per second over my optimal sustained turn rate, instead of just going, even though you're gaining 3 if you do yank fully, you're going to bleed all this airspeed very quickly. Whereas if you just gently pull, like at 20, 22, 23 degrees per second, you're going to get like maybe like halfway around this circle at 23 degrees per second. Whereas if you just yank at 25 degrees per second, before you even enter the circle here, you're probably going to be at 310, or you're even going to go over and be under somehow, and then you have to regain that airspeed, which means extending, which gets very messy. I've made a mess of your lovely diagram, but yes.
Nah, it's all
Does
right.
that
No,
make
you
sense?
did.
Am
It
I
is a way
making
better
sense?
explanation than what I was going on there with.
I hope I'm making sense.
There we go.
They're not going to tell me though.
But no. Yay? Nay?
Okay.
Right. Questions, comments, concerns. We'll do a little check online. We'll see who's been paying attention. All right, aspect. Blue guy's your bandit. Red guy is you. Where are you at? High, low, medium. Yep, we're at low. What about here?
Medium.
Yep, medium to low. How about now? Remember, aspect is your relation to the other aircraft. Doesn't matter which direction you're facing. Didn't change. Didn't change. Still medium to low. How about now?
Yes.
High.
Medium. Yep, we're at medium. How about now? Yep, we're at high. Right? We're off his nose. We are at high aspect. They are at medium now. What about now? Medium to high. And one last one. How about now? Low to medium. Exactly. All right. Now, if we were at high aspect, what else is going to be high?
Closure.
Closure. Right. What if what if this person's at low aspect and this person's at high aspect? Right? They're both going the same direction. What else is going to be low? Same thing, closure. And now if my closure is low, what's going to remain high?
Your aspect?
Come on now, I believe in y'all. Oh, what'd you say, Ross?
Is it your aspect?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's at rear aspect, but if we're both at low, right, or like this guy's at low and this guy's at high, range is going to stay high. What about now? We're at high aspect, we're at high closure. What's going to decrease?
The range.
The range. Exactly. If I'm going to turn right here and I'm going towards and I'm going towards, this guy's 6, what pursuit curve am I following? Flag. What if I'm going right to him? Jinglu, you take this one. Pure. What if I'm going in front of him? Lead. Yeah, come on, say it with your chest. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to lead. Now, if I'm in a roller, what's something I can do, right? What's something I can use to to go into my pursuit curves? What am I going to use? Your what? Your lift vector. Exactly. And let's say we're in a turn circle, right? And I can't pull lead on the guy. And I go to my lag pursuit just a little bit. I do an extension, right? I extend my turn just a little bit. What am I creating?
Offset.
I mean, yeah, offset is the result of it, but no, angle off. I'm creating angle off.
Oh.
See, y'all get it. Again, Jono filmed it. There's been a couple other people who've also filmed it, but this should be available to look after again. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask any of us. Type something out in the Discord channel. Maybe there's a way something could have been explained better. What's up, Ross?
Is this going up like the other ones usually are?
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume so.
Yeah,
Yes.
I showed up pretty late, so I missed the entire first time. So
That's all good.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. No worries. But all right. Optics. You got something? When is the test? Okay, yeah, brother, I'm sorry, but I'm not qualified enough to make a test and then grade it for y'all, okay? Look, don't get me wrong, I like to think that I know a lot about BFM, but I don't know everything, and not only that, what?
We could do a Kahoot and get everyone to play. We could do a
That would be
BFM
hilarious.
Kahoot.
If you wanted to do something like that, we would really need to just, check ourselves on answers and everything, just to make sure we're not getting it wrong.
Make a quiz.
It's fine, move. Some guy wrote a book. I'm sure we can use that for
Yeah, I know. Don't get me wrong, that would be fun. It would be a great study tool. But again, like whatever, like me or Ben or Jono or literally anybody who teaches BFM isn't the end all be all.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? Like we could all say similar or the same things, but there's still a lot that I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot that these guys don't know. Like that's the fun part about dogfighting. It's a constant learning process. It doesn't matter what
keys are currently.
Like it doesn't matter what skill level you're at. There's always something new to learn. Right? Like I'm not a validated instructor on this stuff. I don't work for the Air Force. I don't teach people to dogfight, so I'm not going to try to grade people on it.
We're just here trying to help the best we can.
But no, I do hope this helps with your guys' understanding of BFM, at least understanding basic terminology and everything else, and how all of these different variables mesh together with one another. Right? Like everything we talked about affects literally everything else that we also talked about. That's why I went through so many examples. But no, definitely encourage you to go out. There's not going to be a practice session that we host. So go out into the public, try it out. You know, go beat up some public lobbies or something. I believe in all of you.
Grab some friends and
People.
do some 1v1s
Run some
Yeah.
merges.
and just try some stuff.